Is your team and organization in a healthy spot, or are you about to flatline? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about the importance of understanding our organization and team vitals and how to monitor them so we don't flatline without even realizing it. Hi, I'm Chris Littlefield. I'm the founder of a company called Beyond Thank You. I'm a regular contributor to Harvard Business Review and Forbes, and I spend the majority of my time helping leaders understand the key things that they need to pay attention to, the conversations they need to have, so they can support their people to do their best work in serving our patients and our customers. Let's jump in. When you go to the doctor, or God forbid you end up in the ER, one of the first things they're going to do is they're going to check your vitals. They're going to check your body temperature. They're going to check your pulse rate. They're going to check your respiratory rate. They're going to probably also take your blood pressure, but that's not an official vital sign. I work with a lot of doctors and nurses. I don't want to get in trouble for saying the wrong thing. Now, the reason why they check these things is these are the biggest indicators of what's going on in our body. And if you've ever seen a TV drama like ER, it's when somebody's plugged into the machine and they're monitoring that, and then one of those things drops, and then all of a sudden someone goes running out the door and says, "We need a doctor, the vitals are dropping." They bring in the paddles and they have to, the thing. We don't want that to happen with your organization. But it got me thinking a few years back when I was working with an organization in healthcare. What are the vitals for our teams and our organization? What does it look like when we're healthy? And even more so, what are those early warning signs that the vitals are starting to drop? So a couple years back, I started facilitating organizations and teams through a process to identify what their vitals are. Now, it's great for organizations to have a dashboard that they're constantly monitoring, and you're going to have your CFO identify what your financial vitals look like and the early warning signs that we're starting to slip. And then you're going to also have your HR department identify what their vitals are when it comes to engagement scores, retention scores, and all of those things. But it's also important for each team to identify what does healthy look like on their team and what are the early warning signs that we're slipping. Now, some really great questions to use to be able to identify that on your team is when we're at our best, what are our actions and behaviors? What are we doing when we're communicating one another in a positive way? Maybe we're laughing together, we're joking around together, we have agendas for meetings. When there's a miscommunication, we reach out and talk to the person instead of talk to other people. And that's what we'll talk about when we get to when things are starting to slip. We have regular rituals where we celebrate together. We celebrate people's birthdays. Before we finish a shift, we make sure that everything's set for the next shift. Or how do you maintain your physical environment? And you want to have a conversation about the actions and behaviors and even the physical environment that you maintain and the digital environment, because that's important as well, when you are at your best. And if people say things like, "We're nice to one another," then you always want to follow up if you're running this process by saying, well, what does nice look like? Give me some examples of that, because we need to identify the behaviors so we can monitor them when they're there and notice when they're not. Now, this comes to the next part of the conversation is what are some of the early warning signs that things are starting to go south or our vitals are starting to drop? Maybe instead of talking with each other, we start talking about each other. We start getting frustrated, start avoiding conversations, and have people identify what they do on an individual level. I start just saying, "I'm just going to do it myself," instead of actually reaching out to others. Maybe we start skipping meetings, we reschedule, we spend a lot of time hunting for documents that we can't find, and we start duplicating work that somebody else already did because we aren't having conversations and checking in. And after you identify what we do when we're best and the early warning signs for slipping, that's the first step of the process. And then after you've identified it, then you need to have regular health checks and have regular doctor's visits. Or maybe once a month, you pause to check in. Hey, how are we doing? Let's do a vitals check. And have people start by asking, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being fully healthy to 1 being we're flatlining, where would you say we're at right now? And have people put their up on their hands, or they can put it into a chat if you're in a virtual meeting. And then ask them, why did you pick the number you did? And what is the one thing that had you pick that number? And what's one thing we can do to move that number up? And then if you have these regular health checks on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, then you're going to regularly be able to monitor. And the added bonus is you as a leader will have something to monitor, but people on your team will also be more aware of the early warning signs that things are slipping and what they can do to begin to shift it. So what does healthy look like in your organization? What are those actions and behaviors? And what are some of those early warning signs that things are starting to slip? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a discussion. And if you need help or you want support running your team through this exercise, reach out to me at beyondthankyou.com. And lastly, if you found this video helpful, please hit that like, that subscribe button, and share at least one other person who you know will make a difference for. And together, let's build healthy cultures where people feel valued every single day. Take care.